Monday, the 28th of January 2020. Welcome to the show. This is Business Morning. I am Bosin Amafai. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, top government officials and others are attending the UK-Africa Investment Summit. The meeting brings together businesses, governments and global institutions across Africa, and that meeting is teeing off as we speak in the city of London. President Buhari, according to our correspondents already on the ground, is stepping into the venue to sit with other heads of government and business leaders to conduct the first plenary of this very important meeting. The UK summit is looking to strengthen Britain's partnership with African nations in order to build a secure and prosperous future for all the citizens. The summit will seek to mobilize new and substantial investment to create jobs and boost mutual prosperity. That's according to a UK government website. Of course, we're going to have a briefing from the venue of the UK-Africa Investment Summit all through today. Juliana Olayinka is joining us via Skype later on the show, and she's going to be on our news until the end of the business day. You can look forward to an expansive coverage of the UK-Africa Investment Summit here on Channels Television this Monday. And this is what is on the business calendar for this week. A very busy week starts today with the UK-Africa Investment Summit in London. Today, then tomorrow, will be the World Economic Forum 2020 in Davos, Switzerland. Global leaders, including some presidents, will be making a big splash at this 2020 with focuses on climate change, gender inequality, among other issues, bedeviling the global economy, social and education and everything else in between. A very big event starting on Tuesday. And tomorrow, which is January 31st, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry new president will be closing the trading day on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We're covering that for you here on the channel as well as Wednesday's Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry New Year briefing. That is one big event also on our calendar for the week. But on the monetary policy side, the two-day monetary policy meeting, the first in 2020 by the central bank, begins on Thursday. And, of course, the central bank regular briefing will take place on Friday. That will be live here on Channels Television, and you can watch that, including our panel of analysts as well. So the Statistics Office released the country's Terms of Trade report for the third quarter, showing all commodity group import index grew 2.48%, led by prices of base metals and articles of base metals. The report says all commodity group export price index marginally up 0.12% due to prices of raw hides and skins, leather, fur skins, among other products. All products' Terms of Trade index was therefore down 2.33%, resulting from significant dip in prices of vegetable products. All regions' group export index was, however, up about 0.12%. All import index higher 2.48%, while average Terms of Trade decreases 2.33% on lower export prices to Africa and Europe. Nigeria's major export and import markets in the third quarter of last year were India, China, Spain, the United States, and the Netherlands, with crude oil and natural gas being Nigeria's main exports to those jurisdictions. As you may already know, the Nigerian authorities have issued a list of products and services that will be exempted from the higher VAT payment of 7.5% by consumers effective 1st of February 2020. The VAT exemptions list includes honey, bread, cereals, cooking oils, culinary herbs, fish, flour, starch, fruits, whether fresh or dried, live or raw meat and poultry, milk, nuts, pulses, roots, salts, vegetable, water, natural and table water, including sanitary pads that are locally made. In the finances group, the Nigerian authorities is excluding services provided by microfinance banks, as well as school fees from nursery to university levels. Those will be excluded from the new VAT 7.5%. And of course, the story over the weekend was the pipeline explosion in the outskirts of Lagos. And that's the story we've been covering for you. Energy correspondent Olu Phillips is at the scene of the disaster and will be bringing us up to the minute on the activities of the NNPC, the firemen and others who are already combating this a fire which happened on the back of the activities by bunkers who punctured the NNPC facilities in the area. That's the story this morning around Ilepo, Ekoro Road, the Abulegba outskirts. You see some early images we have for you there. Of course, this is a highly residential area, of course, where those NNPC pipelines had been laid for many, many years, but now heavily populated. The activities of the bunkers overnight sent some fire explosions there. All this happened around the Alimosho local government area of Lagos State. A few weeks ago, a similar pipeline explosion happened around the Ijegun axis of Lagos State as well. This is one of those incidents. You can see some of the damages there to property, vote vehicles and others where don't have any. All this is just there now. Olu Phillips is our energy correspondent here at Channels Television and is bringing us up to speed on this when we have him ready to do that. There are very lot of damages and done there. We'll get you up to speed on that. It's still been contained already. So let's get on to talk about President Buhari's economic outlook for 2020 and moving beyond. Of course, this is the year that we set out into a new decade of 2020 to 2040. The last decade generally could be considered as a lost decade in terms of the country's visioning. We started in the late 1990s talking about Vision 2010, then we moved on to Vision 2020, then on to Vision 2020. All that had now been scrapped. President Buhari wants a new vision of 2020 to 2040. Let's bring in Boniface Chizia from our Lagos studios downtown at the Stock Exchange to give us his thoughts about this. He wrote an article in the first week of this month, just about 2 weeks ago, about his expectations from the Buhari's administration. Mr. Chizia, good morning. Welcome to the program. It's good to have you this Monday morning.
Thank you, Wilson, for having me here in the Lagos studio for the first time.
Yeah, thank you. You're feeling very comfy over there. Is it very nice?
Yes, it is. It is nice. At least I managed to avoid the horror traffic, coming to your office in Ogun State. It's better here, but of course I miss the body contact, that's seeing you next to me and having a fight with you, as we discuss.
You're sounding more like a journalist, like a reporter who is on the street providing traffic reports. But stuff is fine. We appreciate that. It's good to have you here. So you wrote this very lengthy article.
Thank you very much.
In the first week of January about the socio-economic expectations for 2020 under Buhari's administration. What's the thing in summary? What's your view here?
What I expect for the rest of the year?
Yes.
Am I with you? What do I expect for the rest of the year, is it?
Yes, well, very correct.
Well, I would expect that 2020 promises to be better than in all respects compared to 2019. Now the indices are all there. If you start with, we now have a budget. We expect that the budget would be, we should come on stream. We expect that must have come on stream. And so that's a definite improvement. Previously, in the previous years, last year, the budget was not approved until about June in the year. And whatever time is left in the year for you to implement your capital budget, you are constrained. So we expect that if we have the budget starting 1st January, as we expect it should have started, that we should be on home run in terms of having our capital budgets implemented. And of course, you know that what would drive growth and development within the economy is having capital budgets implemented. I think that has been the albatross, which we have suffered in our economy. And so I would expect that riding on the improved relationship between the executive and the legislature, that would certainly give us an improvement in terms of the performance of the economy in 2020.
You sound very optimistic about how the economy will go in 2020. Is the signing of the budgets early the basis for that, the sole basis for that? What other parameters, what other things are you seeing within the economy that gives you the sense that the Buhari's administration is getting its bearings much better in the second term, which starts May 29 last year, as against the first 4 years of his first term in office? Mr. Chize, can you hear me?
I've lost you.
Okay, I'm sure if you can hear me now, that means you can hear me very clearly. Your response shows that you can hear me very well. My question is that you talk about the budget 2020 and its early passage, right?
Yes. I talked about the budget. I talked about the fact that we should definitely see an improvement compared to 2019. Considering the fact that we now have an environment whereby the budget is expected to run from the first day of the year, like it obtains in other parts of the world.
Yeah, so my point is that aside the budget, what else are you seeing from the administration that you say is driving your level of optimism of 2020 being a better year, economically speaking, than the previous years, at least the first term of 4 years of the administration?
Well, I think that also with the budget, we mustn't forget the finance bill. You know, the fact that we have a finance bill that for the first time yes? A finance bill that's for the first time accompanied the budget proposal.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. The finance bill has been signed into law.
Go ahead, Mr. Chize. Please, just go ahead.
No.
Mr. Chize, please go ahead, please.
You know, we had the finance bill, which has just been signed into law. It's been signed into law. It's been signed into law, so we'd expect that we've had the challenge of fiscal sustainability, which in effect says that the revenue inflow is grossly inadequate for us to run the economy. And so one of the things we did, was to hike the VAT rate from 5 to 7.5%. And so we'd expect that if this is implemented, as we expect, we've been told it will come on stream from the 1st of February. We expect that if this is implemented, that will give us a boost in terms of revenue flows, to help us better manage run the economy.
Mr. Chize, we are at the threshold of the new decade,
yes,
which is 2020 to 2040.
Yes.
Yes, and this administration is the one kicking off the new decade, as it were. So what would you like to see done differently if you consider the fact that we've done a few visioning over the last 2 decades, but virtually none had actually come to fruition?
Well, I would expect that you hit the nail right on the head. We don't visioning, like you said in your intro, we did Vision 2010, 2020. Also visioning, and quite recently, we have the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, which is supposed to be a 4-year plan. But what has happened is that we put these plans on ground, and there have been failure of implementation. So we put them there, and they've not been implemented. And that has been the problem. And sometimes it's difficult to locate where this problem is. Is it lack of capacity from the personnel that are expected to have this implemented, or consciousness on our part to ensure that these programs are taken on board. For instance, you can't have a vision program that is in place, and you're putting your budget that is not within the context of what you said you're going to, to do, in your long-term plan. So I think that those are challenges. With respect that if we are going to go, what we have in this economy is not coming up with ideas. I think we can craft beautiful ideas. But what has been the problem is that we've not been able to implement them. And of course, when we begin to say this, then we definitely want to locate this in the area of available capacity. So the quality of preparedness of the personnel that are charged, with having these policies implemented. And of course, that means that we have to go back and revisit our electoral selection process, because it's also part of it. When you have an election process where people are selected not based on competence, but based on other parochial, selfish, nepotistic interest, then you have some challenges. You have an election process where the people's vote doesn't seem to count, and what now matters is that all election decisions are now finalized at the Supreme Court. I think we'll have some issues. I think that the power must be returned to the people where it belongs, and so that those who are charged with the responsibility of driving this economy will know that they have to be accountable. Without that, anybody can go there and ride roughshod on Nigerians, not do nothing, and still expect to be re-elected.
Mr. Chize, when we were planning Vision 2010 and Vision 2020, when Nigeria was planning, working on Vision 2010 and 2020, insecurity was not such a very big headline story. Of course, we have pockets of, we have armed robbery, highway robbery, and all of that. But now, insecurity has become such a very household word on everyone's lips that is beginning to trump even other activities of the government. So how critical do you think insecurity has become in terms of Nigeria getting its socio-economic bearings right?
Well, I think that you are spot on. Insecurity is very important. And it affects the competitiveness of your economy. The security of life and property, the sanctity of contract is very important. And that's why we must put that in context. What recent developments whereby some sections of the country are trying to arrange for themselves, a way to add to the security infrastructure which we have in the country. I think it's something that we should all embrace. We must come to and accept the reality that's staring us in the face, that what we have today is inadequate. And anything that we could do to complement the security we have today in the country must be welcomed with both hands. We might go ahead and make sure we introduce controls, checks and balances to make sure that there are no abuses and so on and so forth. We should do that. But all of us in this country must accept the reality that the Nigerian police, as it is today, as it is constituted today, as it's been controlled today, has proven inadequate to secure life and property. Has proven inadequate. Let's say, for instance, what's happening in the Northeast, where you have Boko Haram, operating almost full scale. Obviously, if you look at the economy in that environment, the economy is shattered. The farmers cannot go to farm and so on and so forth. And so you don't have productivity from the farms. And so it doesn't take any vision for us to know that certainly is not good for the country. We're not even talking of those who are coming from outside the country. When you want to come in, you're looking for you have an investment capital, want to come to your country. Now, one of the things they'll consider, is how safe are we, going to this environment. And then they'll compare that vis-a-vis the competing environment they might want to go to. And closely following on this, is also the issue of the sanctity of a contract. So if I go and I have issues with some people, the third parties, and we need to go to court and so on and so forth, how reliable, it's the court process, going to be. How is it aligned with what we are familiar with in our environment? I think those are some of the challenges. I think it's important that we have to be eclectic, we have to be open and make sure that we don't restrict. People want to have their own initiative in terms of
Mr. Boniface
putting
Chize.
security in place.
Mr. Boniface Chize, well,
Yes,
we've got a
Bosun.
few more questions for you on the monetary policy side of things. We spent so much time talking about the fiscal. We want to ask you what's your monetary policy outlook for the new year, 2020 is from the central bank. The first meeting takes place this week. We'll stand by at our Lagos studios. Mr. Boniface Chize, we're back with you and everyone in 2 minutes. Boniface Chize, who is a policy analyst and economist, is talking to us from the Stock Exchange studios there on the economy under Buhari's administration as we look to the next decade, 2020, 2040. Mr. Chize, let's wrap this up on the monetary policy side. What's your outlook for the year on the side of the monetary policy in terms of headline interest rate, inflation, and all of that?
Well, I think that monetary policy, central bank has got its a function duty cut out for it. I think that if you monitor the rate of inflation, we are now itching back to about 12%. At some point in time, we made consecutively, consistently, we maintained a downward trend, and we're all optimistic that the inflation rate was going to come down. But I think that developments probably beyond the control of the central bank, particularly take something like the border closure and the spike it has caused in the price of items, particularly food items, rice, and so on. The inflation has gone up. It's almost at 12%. And now when inflation is gone up, now one of the main, the crux of central bank function is the maintenance of price stability. So the central bank is going to be challenged. And of course, most of us, we are looking forward to interest rates coming down. Interest rates in this environment have been very high. They are not investment friendly. You cannot borrow and do capital investment at prevailing rates of interest. And so one was looking forward to a monetary policy rate coming down. But this is not going to happen. In fact, we should be on the lookout, because if it continues, we should even expect that the rates are going to be increased. And that's going to be sad news, for all of us. And I expect also that the fiscal authorities will not be jubilating about that. So I think that in terms of interest rates, the prospects are not very good. And we don't know what will happen during the year. We're also praying that we also won't have any shocks, from the external sector. Have any shocks in the external sector, or have any upheaval within our environment, and then have hot money flowing out. Then again, we might be further challenged. I think so. It's important we put that on the table. So interest rates, we don't see it coming down within this year. But in terms of the other activities, we expect that central bank will continue. We'll continue with the policy of loan deposit ratios and so on and so forth. Those are like prudential regulations, to stimulate the economy. Central bank will continue with those ones, continue with its development activities, anchor borrowers program and so on and so forth, stimulating other products, boosting productivity and so on and so forth. So those are challenges. I think that we have to assist the central bank. The fiscal authorities will have to take some hard decisions. The subsidy on petroleum certainly not sustainable. I think that it's an area that we need to look into and see what could be done. I read in the papers that said we are going to, there's a form of petroleum that we are going to, we are thinking outside the box that would make us sell petroleum products at 95 naira a liter. Now, of course, that will welcome development. It will impact the level of inflation. Don't expect that Dangote refinery would expect it to come on stream this year. That if it does come on stream, also would expect that it would impact the environment positively.
Mr. Chize, the final question. One of the big story that dominated last week has to do with the eco currency, the common currency being planned for West Africa, and Nigeria and a few others took some decisions. How do you think Nigeria should proceed with this move to have a currency convertibility and convergence within the sub-region. What's your take on it?
Well, I think that as usual, Nigeria is a bit belated in taking this decision. I was surprised when the Minister of Finance, when the announcement was made that the ECO was going to replace CFA, and this was being driven by France, a former colonial master. And then we were asked, and we did say that we are looking at the matter. I think that's something that we should challenge. Nigeria must rise, to its position, its responsibility within the sub-region. We don't. I'm glad that after the meeting that those English-speaking West African countries had in Abuja, that they come with a stand to say that recent development is not acceptable to them, and I think that should be the position. Nigeria is a very big country. About 70% of the economy of the West African sub-region is here, and so we will not allow anybody to come and dictate to us. Now, what has been the challenge is meeting the convergence, which has been a challenge. So you can't do more than 3% of your deficit. You must have so much in your reserves and so on and so forth. Inflation rate. So those are challenges, and even Nigeria is challenged, to meet those convergence criteria. And so I don't see how you can do it otherwise, except you are going to have something in the country like France that's come to stand behind and say, okay, we guarantee. Otherwise, we are going to have some challenges, And so I think that Nigeria should not allow to be beaten by any foreign country. It's wrong for France to come in and begin to usurp what ECOWAS has worked on for more than 2 decades, to look for common currency. They shouldn't come, take it over and want to dictate to us.
Mr. Boniface Cheze, policy analyst and economist, thank you so much for making it with us on the show this morning. Thank you so much for coming on Business Morning. We wish you you have the best of the rest of the week. Thank you so much for coming through. We appreciate your time.